Picture it, Los Angeles, 2024.
Welcome to Out on the Lanai, the only Golden Girls podcast you're ever gonna need to listen to. I am HAlanScott / Sadie Pines.
Thank you very much. I'm
Thank
Kerri
you.
Doherty, and today we're so excited. We're doing another Golden Rewind, where we go back and rewatch our favorite episodes of the Golden Girls and offer new insights since we first started breaking down these episodes way back in 2014. And put on your Satan secretary funeral dresses and grab your tissues because we just rewatched the most emotional episode, and that is Season 6, Episode 12, Ebbtide's Revenge.
This might be... I was thinking about this as we were watching it. I know we have a lot to announce, but I have to say this up top because I like teasing out the big announcement that we have, even though it's in the title of the episode. I think this might be one of my top 10 episodes.
Wow. In 10 years of all time.
I think so. I think,
wow.
Well, my top 10, well, not of us record, I'm talking about of the Golden Girls. We haven't finished. I don't know if it's in the top 10 because we haven't finished recording yet, Kerri. So it might be. I don't know.
I don't know. You came on before we started recording. You were positively optimistic.
I mean, I am. I'm very optimistic about this episode.
Mood.
Very
I
optimistic.
just thought you gotta have high hopes.
I mean, sure, it might be a top 10 episode of all time of us doing this podcast. However, I was saying that Ebbtide's Revenge might be one of my top 10 episodes because I feel like every Golden Girls VIP, every person who is a mega fan, has, of course, the classics of the top 10s. You got to have the classics. And then you need at least like one or two deep cuts that are kind of like off the beaten path a little bit, that are kind of weird episodes. And then you need that one emotional episode. And there you have some to choose from. You know what I mean? You have 72 hours. You have, you have lots of them to choose from. But I think this might be my emotional one.
Wow. This is a good emotional one. I think you and I talked about this, I don't know, offline at some point, but this isn't one that I go to very much to watch because it's so emotional. It's very emotional. But I was reminded how funny it also was, which is not an easy feat for an episode all about grief and death and acceptance.
Yeah, I mean, it is Sophia, Estelle Getty in this episode, I don't know what episode she got nominated for an Emmy for the year of this season, but I hope it was for this one because we know the Emmy voters were looking at this episode because Brenda Vaccaro, the guest star, announcement coming soon, was Emmy nominated for this episode. So, I hope so. But yeah, it's a great episode. It's a great episode. And, the reason, again, you all see it in the title, you know why, but maybe you didn't. Maybe this just happened to come on and you're listening in your car and you didn't get a chance to read the title and you're like, wait, what's happening? What's going on? There is a reason why we're watching this episode. I would love to live like that, where I just I fumble through life and then I just plug my phone into my car and then our voices just start and all of a sudden you're like, what's happening? I don't know. Oh, well, I'm along for the ride. Let's go. I would love to live like that.
I would love to live like that too.
I can't live like that.
That's living so dangerously, a life of spontaneity. And
I could never.
I could never. It gives me stress hives thinking about it. Well, let's preface this by saying that we basically manifested what you're going to hear a little bit later, our special surprise for this interview. We manifested this earlier this summer.
Yeah, I have been manifesting this moment long before our conversation because of, like I said on the episode, I would frequently DM this person to be like, please, using
notice me,
using every piece of everything that I have to get them to want to do this. And then it took the power of our longtime GG VIP BFF, Alaska Thunderfuck. It took the power of her energy to help us manifest our special guest.
It literally took the state of Alaska to manifest this guest.
Yeah.
Everybody, we interviewed Ms. Brenda Vaccaro. Big Sally.
Angela Big Sally. Oh my God. Should we just play the moment where this all got set in motion?
Yes, let's play. Yeah, let's play that little moment of the manifestation with Alaska.
In Alaska.
He got married to Brenda Vaccaro.
Oh
my
she's
God,
so good.
Should we all be so lucky? Have you ever seen Supergirl?
Have I ever seen Supergirl? Of course, with Faye Dunaway.
I just saw it like a couple of weeks ago for the first time, and I was like, it was like an awakening. I was like, this is the most beautiful.
Yes.
Like when she's flying through the countryside, I was like brought to tears. I was like, this is such a beautiful
Brenda Vaccaro
story.
is a gift, and you need to see immediately. Go to whatever you need to go to and buy Barbara Streisand's The Mirror Has Two Faces. She plays Barbara's best friend in the film.
Oh yeah,
and it is such a good moment, being like, do you want to split my burger? Like, and they have the whole like perfect bite moment and all of those. I mean, Brenda Vaccaro, I follow her on Instagram and it is a delight, and I highly encourage everyone else to do so as well. I love Brenda Vaccaro.
We should try to get her on the podcast.
I wonder if she would do it. She probably would. I'll DM her.
DM her. We need to make that happen.
I mean, I wonder if she's responding, if she's looking at her DMs. I have a feeling she might be a post and go gal. She is not just a post and go gal. I have learned this now. She is not that. She is actually a post and let me stick around and have a conversation gal. And that's exactly what Brenda Vaccaro did with us. And oh my God, what a conversation we had.
Brenda Vaccaro.
I'm going to say what everyone should be saying, how you should say her name. This is how you should say her name. Brenda motherfucking Vaccaro. Brenda Vaccaro. Oh my, what did she say? Glowing and flowing, flowing and glowing.
Mm-hmm.
I always, my brain moves them back and forth.
I think it was, like flowing and glowing. That's how she lives life. She's just
Brenda
flowing and glowing.
And glowing Vaccaro. Oh my God, that conversation. It was I went into it because I mean, I did the rare thing where I did the outreach, which I very rarely do because Kerri knows about the stress that takes. And I did the outreach and I communicated with her and also her assistant, and we were chatting back and forth. And as it was all happening, I went into the conversation kind of hoping, like, I didn't know what to expect because like I've interviewed a lot of people, like I have a lot of these conversations before, so it's not like hard necessarily for me to do. But I also like worry, oh my God, what if it's a disappointment? What if it's what if it's a difficult conversation? What if it's not as great as like our Ray Burke chat that we had last week? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, what if something about it isn't going to be great? And when it started, as soon as it started, I was like, oh no, this is happening, and we are on this ride, and I am on the Brenda motherfucking Vaccaro ride, and I am not getting off.
It was a roller coaster ride. She was a trip to talk to, and we're so excited. We are going to play a little snippet of it for everyone at the end of this episode so you can get a little taste. But of course, if you want to hear the full interview, you know where we're going with this. Listening to Brenda Vaccaro talk about what it was like being such a big part of an iconic episode, which Golden Girl took her to lunch. She talks about her friendship with Barbara Streisand. She talks about gossip on the set of the Golden Girls and what it was like to play Joey's mom on Friends in season 1.
All she had a few things to say about Faye Dunaway. I mean,
she had things to say about Faye.
Yeah.
You got to go to patreon.com/Golden Girls Podcast and sign up for the $8 a month tier. It's Miami Program Director tier. And if you pay for a year in full, it is less than $8 a month. That is less than $4 a person here per month hosting. Like that is a
NPR month. This is your NPR donation push.
Yes, this is my Ira Glass that I do. Yeah, but I do it every week. And speaking of the Ray Burke interview that we just had, if you didn't listen, Ray Burke, the caterer from Sophia's wedding, I meant to call out Gigi fan and Out in the Lanai listener Jeff, who actually emailed us and said, hey, y'all should get Ray Burke on the show because Ray Burke did a Seinfeld podcast. So I forgot to thank you last week, Jeff, but I am thanking you this week for sending Ray our way and giving us this great idea.
And I also just want to say, too, because I know it, subscribing to things can sometimes be a pain. Now, we promise that, we're never annoying about it, and we're very consistent about what we do on Patreon. But we also want to acknowledge that, like, yes, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I get that. So we are releasing clips from the Brenda episode. You can go subscribe on or go follow us on Instagram and stuff. And like, we'll be, and you never know when things will sneak into episodes or when things will drop. I mean, we just dropped recently our chat with Hillary Shepard. from a couple weeks ago. So like that's in the podcast feed. So like, you know what I mean? Do you, but also if you want it now and you want to hear this amazing, amazing chat, go subscribe on Patreon because it is a chat unlike anything I think we've ever had on the 10 years of this podcast. Don't you think?
I mean, like she was everything I was hoping that she would be.
Yeah.
Like she was fun, she was funny, she was eccentric, she wasn't afraid to go there. Like she's like,
No.
I'll tell you anything you want to know. What do you want to know? You want to know who's a piece of shit in Hollywood? Like she didn't hold back. I felt like she felt very comfortable with us.
I hope
she
so.
She definitely afterwards was like, we're all going to get lunch together. So hopefully that happens at some point. It was just,
she's just a gem. And
it was
and
fabulous.
Just on a personal level, as someone like I even say during, I think this might even be a clip on Instagram, but like, you know, as like a little gay boy who obsesses over actresses like Brenda Vaccaro, who I did very much so when I saw The Mirror Has Two Faces. And then I immediately was like, I'm obsessed with this woman and I need the perfect bite. You'll know the reference if you see the movie. And I just you become obsessed with it. And then of course I do the deep dive into her career, seeing her in Midnight Cowboy and her Oscar nominated performance and like in another film, but also like she's just had such an amazing career. Supergirl. I mean, Alaska talked about it, but Supergirl is just one of those camp queer classics that like Brenda Vaccaro is just insanely good in. But then beyond that, she's done so much voice work on animated stuff. She literally has a film coming out at, I believe she's at the Toronto Film Festival in just like not far from now. So like she's still working. She's still like a very active, busy actress. And it was just such a gem to be able to talk to her.
And she's what they call versatile.
Oh, very versatile. Very, very versatile. And also just down for like a good time to talk and chat and have a good time. Just like Kerri and I. We're always down
just like
for
us. She fit in right at home with us.
Yeah.
So we are going to dive into the Ebbtide's revenge episode. Then we're going to play a little snippet of our Brenda Vaccaro interview for you all to hear. But before we get into that, a little bit more housekeeping. Also today, if you're in the GGVIP Club, we're doing another Rusty Anchor Happy Hour bonus episode that you get every week. This week in the Rusty Anchor, we are watching and breaking down the trailer for a Golden Girls video game that I think sadly never came to be.
This trailer is bonkers, and it almost gave me anxiety.
I kept having to pause it and write notes because I was like, wait, I have to ask about this. I have to ask about this. How is this canon? Bah, 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 bah. So it's wild. It's fun. That's what we're going to be breaking down. And then lastly, I have to do a little shameless plug here because I am teaching another 6-week Zoom TV pilot writing class. I taught one earlier this summer. This time I'm teaching it. I partner with a really great company called Blueprint Screenwriting Group. If you are a writer in any phase in your writing journey, if you want to write a pilot, if you want to learn how to write what you know, how to take your own life experiences and transform them for TV, I would love for you to be a part of this course. You get 2 rounds of one-on-one feedback with me over the phone. We can totally talk about Golden Girls. It starts Sunday, August 25th. You can sign up at blueprintscreenwritinggroup.com. There are only a few spots left. We'll also link to it in the show notes. But for any of you budding writers out there, I would love to be part of your writing journey.
I'm actually going to put you on the spot real quick as a writer and now very much a teacher as well. And I would like for you, if you could, to describe and if you aren't watching on YouTube this episode or on Patreon, you should, because this is very important. Please describe for our listeners, I guess, my wonderfully chiseled jawline.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of depth of shadow. I'm seeing a bit of highlight on your chin, which is really drawing in the darkness of that shadow on the sides. It is very chiseled. There is, I feel a little bit like I'm looking at an oil painting.
See, guys, you got to go sign up for Kerri's class because you'll learn how to describe a fucking mutt face like this. So, like, perfect.
You'll learn how to compliment people.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah. Go sign up for her class. You need to do it. She's fantastic and she helps me. So, like, come on, go do it. You can be as good as me.
Ooh, and that's pretty good.
Not really. No one wants to be me. Let's get to the episode, though.
Yes, we have so much to talk about.
Let's do it.
And we are back talking about Ebbtide's revenge. I had a question for you about
I bet you I have an
Phil's
answer.
sort of overall treatment in this episode and the way that the women sort of describe him. Blanche refers to him as gay. Sophia calls him queer. She says 6'2" married man with kids who wears women's clothing. And then Dorothy at one point says that he must have had a deep psychological need and cross-dressing provided him that emotional outlet. Knowing that this is sort of the culmination of the way that our main characters on the show describe Phil, what's sort of your take on that in terms of like, was it okay? Were they a little off base?
Yeah. I mean, I actually think they were pretty okay in terms of sort of the description of Phil. I actually don't believe that Blanche called Phil gay. I do think she said that she was correcting Sophia in the use of queer at that time, right?
Oh,
Yeah, no.
maybe.
So she was just saying that I mean, because so it's complicated, but back in the 80s and 90s and even before that, the use of the word queer was a slur, sort of like how you would say the F word or whatever it is. Like it was a slur that then, as the AIDS epidemic moved on and people became more aware of gay and queer issues, they stopped using the word queer because they felt it was like offensive, basically. And that's sort of what Blanche was getting at when Sophia used the word queer.
She did correct her. She goes, "Oh no, Sophia, it's called gay," right?
Whereas queer, the use of how Sophia was using queer, I don't necessarily think, because I don't think Sophia ever thought that her son was gay necessarily, because she knows her son had a wife, had children, a very committed relationship for however many years, a long time that they were married. So like, I think she used it in the queers in the sense that like something was quote unquote wrong with Phil, which we learn later in the episode. She feels that way, that there's something queer, meaning not necessarily normal. I'm not using it in the ways that it should be used, but I'm using it in the way Sophia would have thought of the word queer. But with cross-dressing, I mean, Phil was a cross-dresser. Like there wasn't necessarily, at least they never discussed necessarily a sexual gratification that came from him cross-dressing. We don't know his sexual sort of prolific. We don't know anything about his sex life really, other than he had children. But we do know that he enjoyed dressing up in women's clothing, even though he identified as a man. Again, this is the 1980s, 90s. Phil today, just like, Nathan Lane's character in The Birdcage likely would be a non-binary they, them, or something in these modern times if the film was done today. But in 1996, it was not that the words didn't exist. The language didn't exist. And so I think they actually handled it pretty well. There are a few off-color jokes that are maybe a little like there's a moment where Blanche says, "I got to go to the car and get my camera. This is too funny." And that, even though I wasn't offended by it, I can see how someone would be offended by that. But for the most part, I feel like this was definitely a very elevated episode of language and how they use language for the most part. Please, if you have your thoughts on this too, share it in the comments of wherever you post things and let us know, but also keep them respectful. We're all being respectful. We're all respectful here of each other and our own takes and our own opinions. They are not slurs against anybody. We are all learning, and we also all need to be available to be open to being wrong about how we communicate certain things if that is not your learned experience. So let's just be respectful.
I think that was a solid answer.
Well, thank you.
A+.
Thank you. It's difficult. It's very difficult, though. It's very difficult.
Yeah,
it's
well,
complicated.
I feel like you do a really good job of explaining, of educating, and of offering really interesting insights based on
also allowing people who are curious to know and learn and grow and maybe are uncomfortable asking a question. Go ahead and ask the question. I think it's okay in a safe and respectful way.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
What I liked about this episode, earlier we were sort of talking about the balance of really deep emotional moments and humor. And I feel like right off the bat, because The Golden Girls is a hilarious show and it's usually
LOL.
really funny
LOL. So many
right
LOLs.
off the bat.
Yeah.
And I like that in this episode, they prepared the audience for grief because it starts with Rose kind of somberly walking into the living room. She's wearing all black. She's putting tissues in her purse. And I was like, oh, okay. They actually really prepared the audience well because, you know, they didn't pull the rug out from underneath us. It's not like the women were, you know, sitting around the table laughing about like, which exotic vacation are we going to go on? You know, where they get a phone call about Phil and suddenly they're like, whoa, wait. So I thought it was very respectful.
I agree.
For the you know, for the creators of the show to know that, okay, we would just want to give everybody a heads up. This is going to be about grief. And that's how they, you know, that's how
Can
they
we also
started
talk about
it.
how good Blanche looks? Oh my God, in that red dress. Oh, so good. It made
Satan's secretary. Oh
I
my
want to be
gosh.
Satan's secretary. She looked so good. My God.
She
also,
looks-
can we talk about let's talk about how good she looks, please. And then I have another thing.
Oh, she just looks really good. Like she looks
Yeah.
really hot.
Yeah. Yes. Very, very, very hot. The other thing that stood out in this episode that I don't think we've ever really talked about a lot, especially in our first watch of this, is, and I don't think I even really noticed it until this watch that I had just now, how the depth of Rose Nyland, the depth of Betty White in this episode, the seriousness of Betty White in this episode. I mean, like we often credit Betty White's, because Betty White had like a lot of funny moments on the Golden Girls, and she was often the silly, sort of like airheady one, obviously, as we know. But in this episode, I think it's on par with, you know, I Get the Rose. Like it's on par with that sort of the depth of seriousness that she took in trying to help Sophia get to an emotional place where she could have the release that she needed, which we'll get to at the end of the episode. But from the very beginning of this episode, Rose has this wisdom about her of she's holding, like when she says she's holding a lot of it in, and I don't know if that's healthy for her. Like she's very much emotionally present and aware.
And she even says, I totally agree. And she even says that, you know, she reminds us all that she worked at the grief counseling center. And so she saw a lot of grief. And it was really smart for the writers to then assign her this role of the one who really was Sophia's rock when Sophia was sort of presenting herself as someone that didn't need a rock. And then Rose was the one that saw through it.
And in this episode, Blanche is kind of the Rose character. She's the one who has a lot of the comebacks and the silly moments and the, you know, the laugh lines, really.
Well, Dorothy right off the bat has a really funny joke where, you know, and we don't even learn that it's Phil's funeral for like a few minutes, by the way. And it's when Dorothy comes out, I think, that we kind of learn, oh, wait, this is actually for Phil's funeral. And she's nervous about having to give a eulogy. And she says to Rose, she goes, have you ever given a eulogy before? And Rose goes, at a funeral? She goes, no, at a pie eating contest. And like very appropriate jokes. You know, it was just so great.
Even Rose's, we have the clip of it, but Rose's comeback to a lot of, Rose also had some really funny lines in this episode.
Yeah, I guess we do have a moment. I think this is our first clip where it really showcases, just while we're on it, kind of that balance of humor and kind of, you know, seriousness.
Yeah, let's play it.
Did you happen to notice if my mother's all right?
Oh, she's fine right now. You know, last night she talked to me about the pain of losing a child. I think that's got to be the most painful thing a mother can go through. She's being a rock.
Maybe too much of a rock. She's really keeping this all bottled up.
She's in shock. The whole family's in shock. I mean, a man goes out to buy himself an evening gown. You don't expect anything unusual, do you?
No.
I mean, it's that balance of she's talking about death, but, you know, a man goes out to buy an evening gown. And it's just, it's so serious. And so we learned that Phil, and again, they try to keep it a little light, but that Phil had a heart attack. He was, I think Dorothy says, to die trying on knockoffs at big gals pay less.
I mean, that would be, that I've always thought how embarrassing it would be to die in like a situation in which like to die on the toilet. Like someone's got to clean that up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like, what is a situation I like 100% would not want to die in?
Gynecologist.
Not that because it would be embarrassing.
Oh, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe getting something shaved, waxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I can I tell you, I would be totally embarrassed if I was like at the grocery store and I slipped on a banana peel and like hit my head.
Oh, yeah.
And then it would be in the newspapers that
Oh
she slipped
God,
on a banana
yeah.
peel and died.
Yeah, I know.
That'd be pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, dying of eating something would just be embarrassing in general because no matter what, like there's no cool food to die to. You know what I mean? Like there's no like it's not cool to die eating like a chicken wing.
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
Can I tell you, and I'm gonna and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna gender this out for a second, but men, do you know that a lot of men are found dead in restaurant bathrooms because they don't want to tell anybody that they're choking and not seem like a man because they're going to need to be saved.
Oh,
So they go into the
wow.
bathroom with 2 ounces of filet mignon stuck in their and then they die in the bathroom because they don't get help. So I just want to say for any man out there who's like, if I ever choke, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. Just let somebody save your life because otherwise you're going to die in that toilet. And then that's going to be more embarrassing to die on a toilet than to get saved maybe by like a woman. I don't know.
Something tells me our audience has no problem being loud and
Has no problem being dramatic and drawing
Yeah.
attention in a restaurant.
I feel like our audience is just fine with a little bit of drama. So I think maybe that message needs to be delivered on a different podcast.
Another bad way to die would be like if you were at a restaurant and you accidentally set yourself on fire when
Oh, that
somebody was
would
doing like a
be-
bananas foster or like some kind of dessert or like the creme brulee torch. Ugh.
Yeah, that'd be horrible. That'd be horrible.
What were we even talking about? I feel like I
Oh.
just had such a Sophia moment.
Well, no, we just finished with Dorothy's joke about Phil and big Sally's or big gals, whatever.
Yeah, at Ross, Dress for Less. So
Yeah.
when Sophia enters, they all start talking about Phil. And this was, again, so many great moments in this episode, but this was another moment that I kind of wanted to highlight.
Dorothy, I never understood why your brother liked to wear women's clothes, unless he was queer.
Sophia, people don't say queer anymore, they say gay.
They say gay if a guy can sing the entire score of Gigi. But a 6'3", 200-pound married man with kids who likes to dress up like Dorothy Lamour, I think you have to go with queer.
Ma, I don't know. I mean, he must have had some deep psychological need, and cross-dressing provided an emotional outlet.
I may be old-fashioned, but why didn't he just drink?
I love that line from Rose because it's so it's so spot on. It's almost practical, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It almost
Yeah.
is very logical, which is not something Rose is necessarily known
No,
for.
Rose is usually incredibly illogical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sophia reveals that she is not looking forward to seeing Phil's wife, Angela, at the funeral, who she refers to as Big Sally. And she says that she calls her that because she knows that Angela hates it, but she never
Yeah.
explains why.
I mean,
Like, why Big Sally?
I don't know. It's probably a reference to something they saw on TV. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares? But like, what I love about it is that Sophia is that spiteful that she's like, "Oh, I just do it because you hate it." Like, I feel like maybe I'm kind of like that.
I mean, do you hold a grudge?
I don't hold grudges, but sometimes I'll be annoying for the sake of being annoying.
Oh, well, then that is definitely Sophia.
Yeah.
I mean, Sophia holds a grudge like nobody else. We learn that they have a 26-year feud.
That's a long
A
feud.
long time.
That's a very long. I mean, 26 years ago, I wasn't even born.
Same. I was but a mere speck up in the universe. Yeah. I was definitely not like
Yeah, no.
Making
Having grudges,
out.
you know.
in the movies, theaters, in the
No, I
back
wasn't
row on the bus, whatever.
drinking or anything.
I also want to point out this grudge that Sophia has with Angela. This is just in a series. Sophia has a long line of grudges against
Yeah.
people. She loves a good old fashioned forever shun, right? We've got
Yeah.
Max Weinstock, who she ends up marrying, which like, don't hold grudges, lady. If anything, that should have taught you shouldn't hold a grudge.
Yeah.
Aunt Angela, the Mangiacavalli guy at the wedding, you know, and
Angela.
Aunt Angela, and
But
now
also
not
Angela.
Aunt Angela.
Yeah.
We should just call Big Sally not Aunt Angela for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
I do think that Sophia does this because, sure, she's Sicilian and there's like a whole thing about Sicilians not to hold a grudge. But I think, too, for some people of a certain age, it's a little easier for them to punish someone with the silent treatment than to take accountability for their actions or to talk about their feelings.
I will say, I mean, I've said this before, there is no better comeback than, this is in the digital age, but like there is no better comeback for somebody than keeping them on red. Honestly, it is the best kind of revenge. I love doing it. Whenever people are mean and I see it on Instagram or something, I will accept the message. This happened actually today. Actually, this happened with the Golden Girls, with an episode. I forget what episode, but someone listened to it, took the time to DM me, say
Not
that,
even our Out on the Lanai account, but
no,
you
me,
personally?
Me. There was a slur involved, and a gay slur, and then they said something about my voice. I don't know. And it was ridiculous. So anyway, I thought it would be fun to just accept their message and then show them that I've read it and then not respond. And then that made them want to respond again and then again and then again. And I just kept looking at it.
They didn't get a reaction out of you, which is what they wanted.
Fun. It's fun. It's fun.
There really is. Yeah.
Also, thank you for the engagement, because if you do hate listen or hate whatever on anybody, and then you go comment on something they do or you DM them, you're literally just helping us, because
I know. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
we love those numbers, as do our advertisers.
In the modern times, that is my way. That's my Sophia way of holding, of doing the keep putting them on red. It's nice. I don't know. I get some joy out of it.
There is nothing more fulfilling than knowing that you're pissing somebody off with your indifference.
It was about my lip gloss, actually. That's what it was. I had a different thing from earlier. Someone was making fun of me for wearing like lip gloss. Like they were, and that's why.
Well,
that's
jokes
what it was.
on that asshole, because I've literally gotten like a dozen messages from people asking what you're wearing because they love it.
Yes. Yeah, no,
so,
it's people,
fuck
people,
you, but thanks for listening.
Now that people are seeing my face more and more often, I'm getting a lot of replies. Some mean, but mostly wonderful and nice and beautiful. So thank you. But yeah, no, that was it. But it was fun to keep them on red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else did I want to say about this scene? Oh yeah, I feel like the end of this scene was kind of trimmed down because it ended abruptly with Sophia making a joke about food and then walking out of the room, and I was like, hang on, that's the end of the scene. We're going to the funeral now.
I feel like a lot of this episode actually has a little bits of it, because I felt like there was probably a lot in this episode and they had to find this delicate balance with a lot of things for this episode, for sure.
Either that or it's Hulu. I feel like half the time we were talking about this with Ray Burke. The Hulu version cut Ray Burke out of the Dorothy and Stan wedding episode.
It's the syndicated version. So like there's the DVD version and then there's the syndicated version, which is what Hulu, because it's ABC syndicated. So that's why that is the way it is. But before we get to the funeral, we do need to take a break.
Okay.
Amen.
One funny thing about the Golden Girls is that now, obviously, Phil's funeral is taking place in Miami when he lives in Newark. But
Insane.
They do explain that Sophia arranged for him to be buried in the family plot that she bought, and that's why it's happening here. But this show didn't do the same thing when Dorothy was having her high school reunion in Miami when she went to school in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean,
at the Dorothy killed Trudy party.
I know. It doesn't bother me though, because like, I mean, if I had to choose between going to a funeral in New Jersey and going to a funeral in Miami, I'm choosing Miami.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it depends.
I like New Jersey. It depends on where.
What part of the what time of year it is.
Well, and also where in Jersey it is. If it's on the Jersey Shore, I'll go there. I'll do that. If it's near New York City, I'll do that too. But if it's in like the middle of New Jersey, no offense to anyone who lives in the middle of New Jersey, but if it's in the middle of New Jersey, I don't know. Maybe if you're near Bed Bath and Beyond, I'll go. But like, or Bath
if
and
you're
Body
near
Works,
a Yankee Candle or
Yankee Candle store, something like that, I'll go. But like other than that, I don't want to go there.
I think it's, to me, that's Sophia making such a power play because
like on her turf. Yeah, totally.
I don't know. And I don't even know if she would I feel like the wife would have say on where he's buried unless Sophia at some point convinced Phil.
Big Sally or Angela she's so accommodating that I feel like she's very eager to give Sophia what she needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in this situation, she's in Miami.
Well, Sophia certainly doesn't make, and you know, again, Sophia is going through a lot, and we don't really see it, you know, sort of come out of her until the end. But you know, she's definitely doing things at this funeral that are making things more difficult for Big Sally Angela. Like when she, you know, she misled the priest about Phil. Like it's clear she has issues with the cross-dressing. You know, she needs to be in control of his final wishes, even if they're not his own. But yeah, the funeral scene, I mean, yeah, it was just kind of
a hard one. I mean, in that I do love one of the things that I love about the funeral scene, and I think we should just like, you know, I mean, because the priest has a thing where he says the priest is, I mean, the return of this priest, we should say too, because he's been on a few episodes of the Golden Girls.
Yeah.
But the priest gets information from Sophia. It's wrong. All these things. What I found, to me, the heart of this scene is obviously the introduction of Big Sally, but also we see in both Dorothy and Big Sally how much love they had for Phil and how much respect they had for Phil. And like even in Sally's response to the teddy, the black teddy that Phil's wearing, and how proud she is, that how good he looks in the teddy. And like, there's just a lot of pride. And I mean, Big Sally certainly, but Dorothy as well is showing pride in just who Phil was. I mean, Dorothy a little reluctantly, but you know what I mean. And
yeah, when she goes like, "Oh God, it looks like he died in a Benny Hill sketch because of the teddy."
Exactly. So like, there's a little sarcasm there, but there's still a lot of pride within the two of them, and it juxtaposes with Sophia's real grief and struggle with sort of how, and it's hard too, because if you think about it, like, how do you grieve if also you're judging and you can't get over the pain and the hurt that you have built up of those 26 years or however long it was? And it's, so there's just a lot of dynamics going on here, and getting to Dorothy's speech and her amazing speech in this moment. I actually forgot about this speech in our chat with Brenda. She brought up the speech, and we have a clip. We're playing a clip of it later, but like that, I mean, just how powerful this speech was. And I actually forgot about it because so much of this episode, I remember Sophia's line at the very end of the episode, her sort of mini speech at the end. And that's the moment that stays with me. So I'm in the rewatch of this, I was sort of taken aback by how deep Dorothy's speech was.
Yeah, it is a beautiful speech. To go back to what you were saying about Angela's pride and acceptance of Phil, one thing that really stuck out to me was when she talks about their wedding, and she said she loved his sense of style, how he wore this wedding dress with a plunging neckline. And she's like, I wish I looked that good.
Well, and she's in a plunging neckline, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Brenda Vaccaro's are out.
Brenda Vaccaro's. Yes. I know we have to talk about her outfit in the cemetery scene, but it's clear that, you know, it's not like she was just accepting of this behind closed doors. She wanted to share who he was with their friends and family at this wedding, which just goes to show how wonderful of a person she is.
Yeah, no, it's so good. So good.
It is so good. Another quick thing I have to say before we get to the cemetery, while we're still at the funeral at the church, the moment with the priest, which, like you said, yes, played by Earl Bowen, who's in One Flew Out of the Cuckoo's Nest.
The man acts so unprofessional
Oh my God, the worst
in
priest.
this moment.
But
He's
again-
like, am I on candid camera? It's like,
I mean,
bro.
the actor is very funny. The priest
he's
is
very, very
bad.
funny.
Yes.
He's very funny, but like incredibly unprofessional for somebody who's supposed to be like, a man of God or whatever. Like he just says that like Phil is special. Okay, bye. And then later he doesn't even give a service at it during the funeral. And then later he asks Dorothy if she's a girl.
I know. I mean, yes,
Jesus
I get
would
that.
not approve, my friend.
No, I agree. But I also don't mind that part because, I even though it was for joke's sake, and that is, I guess, borderline offensive, it still is sort of like time and place. Time was different and the conversation was different. And I chuckled at it.
Know
because,
it's fun. It's funny. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, if this were a real world
he was
scenario,
he was a horrible priest. Yes.
yeah, he was a horrible priest. Okay, now we can get to the cemetery.
Mm.
We do have to talk about Brenda Vaccaro's hat and jacket and
Oh
clutch
my God, I
and
want
necklace
it. I
and
want it.
plunging neckline.
I want it.
Like, was that like black vinyl and faux fur
I hope
that
so.
she was wearing?
I hope so, because oh my God, literally, you just said her name and I put on lip gloss because when we started our chat with Brenda Vaccaro, she was like, "What color is that? Show me the color," because I was
She
putting
did.
it on. Yeah. So it's rare beauty. But I love everything about Brenda Vaccaro in this episode and of her clothes and this scene in particular. She becomes Dorothy later on in the episode. Like her style becomes more Dorothy style when they're at the house. But this is just like sophisticated, not rich lady trying to look rich. Like, I mean, she was just perfect.
So New Jersey.
And so New Jersey.
So New Jersey. I have to say, when we go visit Stan's parents down the Jersey Shore, Stan's mom always just has clothes there for me to wear. And then sometimes I'll like take them back with me. She's just always like going to like flea markets and whatever, and she'll just like grab stuff, and she finds really good stuff. This is her
I
superpower.
love Stan's mother.
Me too. She is the greatest. So this time I went home and there was like a jumper. It was like it had like spaghetti straps, but it was a jumper and it was like leopard print.
Oh my
It was like-
God. I'm
and
obsessed.
It's the most comfortable thing. It had like cinched ankles and it was so soft and it was like the most comfortable thing I ever wore. I wore that thing like every day and I was walking around and Stan was like, "You look like a fucking Jersey mom right now."
I fucking love it. I love it. If I had a body that could wear a jumpsuit like that, I would. I have too many jiggly bits that like to hang and swiggle, but like I do not. I would
have no
love,
jiggle.
I have. Well, I mean, but I have like. I mean, mine's like.
I know you've got. Yeah.
I become a pillow when I sit down. But there's still like, wow, I would love to wear something like that.
Yeah, and then somebody would walk by and they'd be like, "She is so fucking Jersey to you."
She's so Jersey, and
She's so Jersey.
yeah, putting on my lip gloss. Yeah, what of it? What of it? You want to fight? I'll stick it up your nose.
Oh, the Jersey came out of the Missouri.
Yeah, I can do it. I can do it.
And then we have to talk about the three veiled women.
Yes, I want to meet the actors who played them.
I did
wanna
too.
know- I
Do you
wanna
think it was
know-
men or women?
Oh, I think it was men.
It was
I think
men,
it was,
right?
It was probably some of the crew.
It probably was.
Yeah, I have a feeling it probably was the crew because they were tall. I mean, they were. Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling it was definitely men. But
And we know that a prerequisite to being a crew member on the Golden Girls was that you were tall, of course.
yeah, for Dorothy's sake.
If you're going to light B. Arthur, you've got to be taller than her.
Gotta be
to see all
tall.
those
You gotta be
shadows.
tall. No, I have a feeling it was men. I mean, we have a clip of this moment, but I did enjoy this moment, and I loved Big Sally's line afterwards too.
All right, let's play this moment.
I wonder who they are.
You mean you don't know them?
No.
Now, this is awful.
What? What's awful?
Well, isn't it obvious? Veiled, shapely creatures, unknown to the family, coming to say one last secret goodbye to their special friend.
You mean...
That's right, sluts.
I mean, it's just so Blanche. It's so Blanche.
Whenever the word slut comes out of
the mouth of one of these women. It is.
Someone needs to do a master cut of like every time they said slut.
Well, there's this one. There's fasten your seatbelt, slut puppies. Long live the slut. That's one that Dorothy did.
I want
right?
every moment, every slut line.
Yeah, I want a slut supercut.
Just a super cut. Yeah.
A super
totally.
slut.
Super slut. And then Chris Gallo can make it a shirt.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So yeah, and then Big Sally reveals that those are Phil's poker buddies.
Which again, more pride and more love from this woman who is just, it seems like just the best woman.
Yeah, here Phil is living in New Jersey, and he manages to find like-minded people.
It's just
other
so wonderful.
Men that like to cross-dress like it's great. It's
Yeah.
great. Good for him. He found a community.
There's a great PBS doc that I wanted to mention. It was a group of men who they weren't all. I mean, not. It's called Casa Susanna, and it was a group, I believe, in upstate New York in the Catskills, where in the 1950s and 60s,
Dirty Dancing days.
Yeah, transgender women and cross-dressing men would go for refuge, and they would have sort of like, I think they would call them tea parties or something, but they would have like gatherings where they would drive up in their, the clothing that they had to wear, and then when they got to this place in the Catskills, they were able to change and sort of have dinner parties and just be together and be open. It's a wonderful documentary on PBS. You can watch it on Amazon or wherever. I have a book, a picture, like a coffee table book because they found a whole trove of Polaroids and stuff of these people.
Wow.
And it's just so, what I find so amazing about it is like, as a queer person, of course, I'm like, my heart goes out to anybody in the community that's ever had to sort of really hide. But I think about sort of the weight of what some of these people back then, particularly some of them who identified as men, like what they had to go through and the domino effect of some of the lives that were impacted because of the society we lived in, the force to get married, the force to have children, the forcing of all these different things. And it was just so toxic that like this documentary, please go watch it. And I'll post a link to it in the show notes of this episode because it really is a fantastic documentary.
All right. Casa Susanna.
Yeah, watch
PBS.
it.
I love PBS.
Me too. I'm a subscriber. Subscribe.
I love PBS.
Subscribe.
We have the PBS app for anybody. If you have children, you can watch all of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood on there. It's a spinoff of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh, nice.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. They have episodes where they have a woman doing ASL in the corner. Like it's nice. Beautiful. It's a very inclusive show. I love it very much.
I love that.
All right. Dorothy's eulogy. This monologue, I know you said you'd kind of forgotten about it. I did not, because I remember this was Bee's bread and butter.
Yeah.
These
so
monologues.
Good. So good.
And the thing I think, as I was watching Bee deliver this scene, I was like, yeah, eulogies are hard, right? Because like you have to write one, you have to give it. It forces you in like such a short period of time to accept that someone has passed on.
Yeah.
Like even though it doesn't necessarily make sense, not having to write and deliver a eulogy can still allow your brain to kind of trick you into thinking for just a little longer that the person is with you.
It's so interesting that you go in that direction because I don't think of it that way, a eulogy in that way. I think of a eulogy as the start of the grieving process. Like it's the part of the process in which we start to be able to communicate how we feel. I mean, it's like after I had to put Frasier down and we did the podcast, that was the first time I was able to really emotionally feel like I could communicate about something that was like really hard for me and still is hard. And it sort of, starts the process of me not moving on, but mentally understanding what's happening. And so like, because I feel like up until that moment, there's just shock. And then once you learn the words to put to the things you're feeling, that's when you can start. That's when all of the things can start, for me at least. And so for me, the eulogy and Dorothy's eulogy in this episode too is very much that, is that she all this episode, she was trying to understand he was so young and like, what was this about? And sure, he had put on weight, but all these are like, you're going through all of those things. And then you get to that point where you're like, okay, well, here's how I feel. And then you just say it. And and it's the start of something for me.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that is a really interesting way to look at it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mean to bring us down. And I realized I also didn't have a clip to pull for Dorothy giving the eulogy, but it will be on socials because we have a little moment where Brenda Vaccaro talks about filming that scene. So make sure you're following us on Instagram and on Twitter.
Definitely.
So that's the whole first act. That is only the first half of the episode. I forgot how much of this took place back at Richmond Street.
Well, and a lot of what happens at Richmond Street, I mean, it's easy to feel like that is the close of the episode, because a lot of it it's a back and forth game, of getting Sophia to get to a place where she can have that moment.
Yeah. And back at home, Dorothy is trying to squash this beef between Angela and Sophia. Angela wasn't even she was planning on just leaving the cemetery and going back to Newark, but Dorothy really, really wants to squash this. Sophia's not interested. And I actually do have a clip to play for this moment, because listen to this clip and tell me Brenda Vaccaro didn't deserve to win that Emmy.
Get it, Dorothy. I don't need her to be there for me. The shame is she wasn't there for Phil. When you wouldn't see me, you weren't seeing him. On the holidays, when he would try to pretend that everything was okay, deep down it killed him that he wasn't with his family. My children really never got to know their grandmother because you didn't want to step foot inside my house. Well, it wasn't just their loss, Sophia. It was yours too. So whatever I did, or whatever you think I did, I hope it was worth all the pain.
She's so good.
Goosebumps.
She's so good.
Do you see those goosebumps? Yes. Oh my goodness.
She's so good. I mean, and just getting from this moment to everything that happens between them, with Dorothy going back and forth and the dowry and all of the absurdity of Sophia getting to the place where she can actually process Phil's death and she can admit what really is at the core of what's wrong with her. It's just such a good, and it's all because of Brenda, and it's all anchored by Brenda Vaccaro's performance, which is like it's a point in her career where she's an established actress. She knows who she is. She's a working actress with an Oscar nomination under her belt, an Emmy. She had already won an Emmy at this point. She was a 3-time Tony nominee. Like, she was a respected actress, which is why we learn in our chat with Brenda that B did the things she did with Brenda and talked to Brenda and had that relationship with Brenda, because they come from the same school. They started on Broadway in the 60s. Like, they have that. So it really is wonderful to see these two powerhouses have this moment where they help this third powerhouse, Estelle Getty, have that dramatic payout at the end, which is just the ultimate moment, one of the best moments on Golden Girls ever.
Yeah, that's the moment. I mean, again, I got a little teary-eyed during Dorothy giving the eulogy, but then Sophia, and especially as a mom now, I couldn't.
Yeah.
But before we get to that moment, because we are going to play that Sophia moment. Actually, no, I'm going to wait to say this because I want us to end on a happier note, and this episode ends on a very sad note. So I'm going to wait. But, after the moment where Angela confronts Sophia, like you said, the thing about the dowry, Sophia claims that her beef is from the $47 dowry check that bounced, which is insane. And Angela storms off. Dorothy goes to get her. And I do understand where Dorothy is coming from in trying to squash this beef, despite the fact that it is clearly not working. I think, she doesn't want Sophia or Angela to, God forbid, die having any regrets. I think she also knows deep down that Sophia wants to see her grandchildren, and she hasn't been seeing them. And I think, too, part of Dorothy actually thinks that the beef is between Sophia and Angela, when really Sophia is taking out her confusion, her refusal to accept who her son is on Angela. Yeah. And then in that same moment, brings herself into it and says like, what did I do? And like,
I mean, it's just
so much bigger than I think
so
Dorothy
layered.
realized it was.
And I mean, I think, and we talked about this in the original watch of this, so, you know, go back and listen to that. But so much of this episode is influenced by Estelle Getty's amazing work in Torch Song Trilogy. And it's, and you I don't know if this had, if her performance and her work and her legendary work in that play, that Harvey Fierstein play, which dealt with similar issues of a mother trying to accept her gay, in that play, her gay son. But you can see the influence of that performance on this performance. And I would love to talk to whoever worked in this episode to see if maybe there was some connection to that, because it to me, I see it as someone who knows both. Like, I see it so much.
Well, I think we should play that moment.
Let's
because
play
it is, everybody grab your tissues. Grab your tissues.
Grab your tissues. Pull the car to the side of the road.
I did love him. He was my son, my little boy. But every time I saw him, I always wondered what I did, what I said. When was the day that I did whatever I did to make him the way he was?
What he was, Sophia, was a good man.
My baby is gone. Oh, Sophia.
I mean, and in that, what's so incredible about that moment is that the entire episode, Estelle Getty, I'm thinking of Estelle Getty's face, and which we so often aren't privy to Estelle Getty having a different facial expression. She's so often hidden behind glasses and the wig and the stuff, you know.
And the sarcasm. And
and the big eyes, because she's like, has a wisecrack joke or something. And she's so often lost in that. And if you watch Estelle Getty throughout this episode, up until this end moment, you see her lips are pursed. She's looking straight ahead often. She's not being Sophia. She's not being the Sophia that we know. She's very much like something shocking just happened to her. And almost like there's a violation there, that she's dealing with something. And then in this moment, you see this frail little woman get out of this Wicca chair and stand up to say the thing that was just boiling in her the entire episode. And it's just, I
know. It breaks my heart that she lived with that, you know, that she couldn't accept him, and that him knowing that his mom didn't accept him, that must have been really hard for Phil.
Yeah.
And then for Sophia, in that lack of acceptance, to blame herself.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreak on heartbreak.
And it goes back to that documentary I mentioned, that, you know, the Casa Susanna, there's so much of that because of the world so many queer people were forced to live in. And I'm including Phil in the queerness of, you know, that community, because he's an outsider, and he was forced to be an outsider because society would not accept this. Thank God he found Sally, or Angela. Thank God he had that anchor of a human being, because so many people did not have that anchor, which you'll see in that documentary. And it's just the weight of sort of like what society did to so many different people in these families, that just because someone was just being themselves, you know? Yeah.
It's also really interesting to end the episode on this moment,
which is rare for the Golden Girls. It doesn't, I mean, so often, even in like the most serious of episodes, there's still an LOL moment. There's still a joke that happens at the end that, you know, that the serious, but in this episode, it was almost like the weight of it, the Phil deserved the respect for a character we never saw. We don't know what this man looks like. And yet you feel like you know Phil, which just speaks to the writing and the performances, that like the person felt so alive because of the way in which other people spoke and acted about him. And,
Phil came alive through Angela.
Yeah. Fully,
You know,
very much so.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. I would be curious to know if there was more to the episode after this and if it got trimmed down either during the writing process or during I would just be really curious, or maybe it just was they were like, you know what, we don't need to have a resolution between Sophia and Angela. Like we're just going to kind of let it live in this moment. I think it was beautiful, surprising, definitely, if you haven't seen the episode for a while, to realize that that's where it ends.
Yeah. Well, you should definitely go back and watch this episode before you listen to the chat with Brenda Vaccaro, our chat with Brenda Vaccaro, which we're going to come back with a clip, of course, of that chat. But like, go watch this episode before, because and also watch some Brenda Vaccaro stuff. Watch Mary Has Two Faces. Watch Midnight Cowboy. Watch, there's so many great things watch Supergirl. Like, watch some Brenda Vaccaro stuff before our chat. It'll also make you have fun. You'll have fun with the chat because of it.
Yes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break.
Yes.
And then when we come back, you're going to hear a little snippet of our interview with Brenda Vaccaro. And again, if you want the whole thing, patreon.com/Golden Girls Podcast. And then we're going to do some golden takeaways. So don't go anywhere.
Thank you.
Everything was exquisite
Yeah.
and excellent. So for me, it was like, I said to my mother, what did she think? She said, I never used the word perfect, but it was perfect.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
It truly was.
And the only response
wasn't that show. It just went
Perfect.
like an arc of perfection. It went like beautifully. I mean, we're talking, you're right about death here.
Yeah.
Somebody big died.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it wasn't even about, and that's something that I think, I mean, just for me as like a little gay boy watching it, there's a specialness about that episode. There's something special about that episode. And now that I've grown up and I know more about what that episode meant, and also Estelle Getty's career and her involvement with AIDS charities and Torch Song Trilogy, and how so much of that story about, your character's husband was about Estelle Getty's character sort of understanding the differences in this person, and that he wasn't queer, or that even though he wasn't queer, like he was different in his own kind of way, and that it was okay, and that your character accepted him and loved him and had children with him, and Dorothy, B. Arthur's character, accepted him and loved him.
You knew more about it than I did.
Yeah, but it meant so much.
I love that you have that understanding, that you carried that gift with you just to the nth of understanding. That's wonderful. That's really great to hear.
But so many Golden Girls fans are like that, which is why we love, for someone like you, an actor like you, to be on an episode of that weight, of that is that heavy and that important, and to hold your own. That says a lot. That's why you got an Emmy nomination for that episode, that you deserve.
I wasn't intimidated at all when you say to hold your own. I didn't think of that, but it's interesting because maybe I should have had a little bit of that going. I just went in and was having a good time and laughing in rehearsal. And, I guess also a tribute to their gift of opening the door for me, and making me feel like, yes, you're a part of our family now. You know what I mean? That it was like everything I did, they accepted. Yeah. And so I never felt intimidated about the comedy or about what I was doing or where I was going with it. I was just comfortable.
Yeah.
So it was just like a regular job, a regular thing.
Well,
nobody made me think like, whoa, where you are.
Well, you're on the biggest
Golden Girls,
You're guest starring on the biggest show on television at the time.
At the time, I don't think I had a disregard for it. I just don't think it controlled me. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it intimidated me. I just think I had a wonderful way of having a good time, which is just being me and doing it and loving them and watching them. And, I couldn't get over Bee's speech at the coffin. That was breathtaking.
Yeah. Have fans of the Golden Girls talked to you about the episode since? Do people still talk to you about it?
Well, I mean, lately there seems to be a lot of energy about it. I wish Bee was alive. When Bee died, part of me died. I just adored her. I just, we would call each other. Don't call me back. That's what she said. Brenda, I saw you last night. You were wonderful. Don't call me back. I mean, I'll never forget that call. And I don't know. I kept it for a long time, and then we moved out of there, so I don't know where it is. But, you know, she was just magnificent. Magnificent. Yeah. She was a great friend.
Oh my God, Brenda Vaccaro is just like a gem, just everything. I just can't even get over how much I love her. I also want to say too, this episode is a powerhouse episode. We are going long this week. Thank you for sticking around, because this episode, there's a lot to discuss in this episode. We had a lot of things to deep dives, and also the seriousness of this episode, I think, warranted it being a little bit longer than other episodes of this podcast. So thank you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, Brenda Vaccaro. All right. Should we do some golden takeaways?
We should. Okay. My golden takeaway includes a question for you, but yes. Golden takeaway is a nugget of truth or inspiration that you can apply to your life or the lives of our listeners. Kerri, what's your golden takeaway from this episode?
I wanted to have kind of like a more upbeat one, and then like kind of like a little bit more of a serious one. So I have like a two-parter. My first parter is, I also want everybody to remember and recall, is as serious as this episode is, we also get a beautifully funny moment where B. Arthur, legendary B. Arthur, she traverses the kitchen on the set of The Golden Girls on her knees.
On her knees.
Like Gary Oldman in Tiptoes when he was supposed to be playing a little person and it was incredibly offensive.
My God.
She shuffles on her knees. They got B. Arthur to do this
on
an
her
episode
knees.
of television.
She was doing the Nancy Reagan.
My more serious golden takeaway is don't let anybody ever tell you how to grieve. No matter what kind of loss it is. People have done that to me before. And especially when I was younger, and you just end up like pushing your feelings down, and then you feel like shamed for not grieving the right way. So I just want to say, like, you grieve the way that you grieve. And if somebody tells you how to grieve and how you should be and when you should be moving past stuff, tell them to fuck off.
Fuck off.
What's your golden takeaway?
My golden takeaway includes a question, but I'll start with the comment. This had me thinking a lot about funerals and what I want my funeral to be like, which sounds like a dark thing, but I think it can be fun. I want my funeral. I do want everyone to wear black at my funeral, but only because I mostly wear black, and that not because I want them to be in mourning at all. And I want my funeral to be loud and obnoxious and at a buffet. I want a buffet. I don't want like a wake afterwards where all the food is. No, I want people to have paper plates on their laps during the funeral, during the eulogies. Like, I want everyone to be eating like messy food during the funeral, and I want the place to smell of food. That's a big thing for me. And then I also want it to be I want drag queens there, and I want a big reveal at the end where it's kind of like Oprah, where they're like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. But instead it's like, you get a keychain Etch-a-Sketch with my ashes. And it's just, and every person gets a little keychain of an Etch-a-Sketch with my ashes in the Etch-a-Sketch as a take-home gift. So you can play with me for years to come.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would you want?
I am filing that away, and I will find a way to Etch-a-Sketch your remains.
Yeah.
I also want mine to be a party, to be a celebration. Don't wear black. If you want to wear black because you look good in black, especially when you feel bloated like Blanche, then sure, wear black. But, and I know I've said this on the podcast before, and I feel like now it's actually becoming more mainstream, but I read about this like 10 years ago. I want to have my body frozen with like nitrogen, and then they like break it into a million pieces, and then they make you into a little compost box and like plant a tree. I want to be a compostable and plant like a fig tree, a lemon tree, something that's going to provide fruit so that when I haunt you, I'll be doing it through the lemons in your lemonade, something along those lines. I don't know. Just have a party, and like no open casket shit. I I have been traumatized by open caskets. And I know for some people it's like good for them because they're like, now I really feel like I can have closure.
But do you want like a joke of an open casket where people walk in and they think it's an open casket and then it's like, oops, it's all peppermints. You know what I mean?
Oh, that would be kind of fun. Take a mint. I don't like peppermint though, but
okay.
maybe like cow's tails or something.
Oh, okay.
Those candies. Caramels. Don't scoff at my funeral wishes.
I mean,
you
at
want
your
your
funeral,
body put into a
I'll
tiny 80s toy.
I'll take a cow's tail at your funeral, I guess.
Please take a cow's
tail. It will live in my bag. This bag right here. It will live in this bag for like years to come. Yes.
And then I want everybody to tell little Oreo, and if I have another child at any point, to tell them that they're my favorite person in the whole wide world, on planet Earth, and all of the universe.
No, but wait, that's the fun thing. You have to tell the kids individually, you were her favorite.
Sure.
But then you have to go to the other kid and be like, you were her favorite.
Yeah. So everybody has to tell little Oreo that how I love her to the moon and back.
The moon and back. Oh, what a fun episode. Now that we're at the end of it, I can say this might be one of my top 10 episodes of the podcast.
Okay, great.
Yes.
We manifested that too. See, we're manifesting the shit out of stuff today.
We are.
Oh, thank you all so much for listening. And I'm just going to say it one more time. If you want to hear the full Brenda Vaccaro interview, the full interview that we did with Ray Burke, the caterer, interviews with Stan Zimmerman, with Marsha Posner-Williams, all of them, and get tons of bonus content, ad-free episodes. There's so much great stuff, live shows. We're going to start doing trivia, fun stuff. Go to patreon.com/Golden Girls Podcast. And also, when you sign up and you give us money, you support this podcast, because this takes a lot of hours every week.
It does, actually. It does. Yeah. And guys, remember, you can follow us, or we are part of Mom, Moguls of Media. So go subscribe to Mom Plus. And also, we are on social media. You can go follow us on the Twitters at Golden Girls Pod, on Instagrables at Out on the Lanai Official, Golden Girls Pod on the Facebookals, and I'm HAlanScott / Sadie Pines on all the thingies.
And I am Squid Squid on Twitter and Squidsy on Instagram. And leave us a rating and review too, because that really helps.
Do that. And make sure you're subscribed to Instagram, because you never know when we might pop on a live. Oh.
Yeah. Ooh, I think we're going to do one of those soon.
Yeah, I think so. God. Okay, guys, remember, as always. Wait.
That's okay.
Yeah,
you were very excited.
Let's start over. And as always.
Nope, it's you say and remember.
Oh, and remember.
As always.
Stay golden.
People can't shit on you for not getting quotes of the Golden Girls right when you can't even remember two simple words.
Well, I was reading it in the script, actually. Which
you
is
can't even remember? Because
in the script it says,
much.
And as always, ... remember ... stay golden.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's on me.
So that's why. Yeah, so
okay.
Don't shit on my parade.
Out on the Lanai is not endorsed by Whit Thomas Harris Productions, Touchstone Television, Disney, or any of its subsidiaries. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only.
All names, pictures, audio, and video clips of the Golden Girls are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and/or copyright holders.